Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into, hey, fellas, the week 3 betting show. Last week we went 2-2-1. We got the push, sadly. The Rams, -3, they pushed. They couldn't get the extra point. But thankfully, because we got it early in the week, taking those lines on Mondays and ideally Tuesdays, we got it at -3 instead of -3.5 or -4, where you would have lost that bet. So you get your money back, you get it refunded, and you have another bet for the future. That's why it's important to always get the lines early, shop your lines, all that type of stuff, using OddsJam like we did last week. We'll be using OddsJams to compare lines and find the best lines in the market yet again today. And I have another 5 bets that I have placed as of this recording. Now, this video is coming out on Thursday morning. I am recording this on Tuesday night, just the way my schedule works. But let's break these bets down. And now I guess they are somewhat ordered in terms of my preference. Like I'm going to talk about the ones I like the most maybe first, but I like all 5 of them. It's not like a 1 through 5, maybe I can rank them, but 5 is pretty close to 2, right? 5 is pretty close to 1. There's not the mortal locks for me of number 1. But let's get into it. If at any point you like the video, just take a second and hit the subscribe button. So we'll start with the first wager that I have made, and that is going to be the Washington football team +10. I got it at PointsBet, and now in some spots it's at +9, +9.5. I like it wherever it is, even if it's at +9. This is a very good bet on the Washington football team side. And no, it's not because they won a game because of a missed field goal against the New York Giants and barely squeaked out that game against a Giants team that is definitely not anywhere close to what this Buffalo team is. But also in that game, they weren't getting 10 points. Here's the thing. The books are currently still baking in the 1-1 Buffalo Bills, who just blew out Miami. Miami, though, with Jacoby Brissett and a team that did not look that great. Yes, they have Xavier Howard in the secondary, but for the most part, it has not looked that great on the defensive side of the ball either. But we've seen Josh Allen now look terrible through 2 weeks. Terrible. I'm sorry to the Bills fans out there, and you might be scared looking at it and not wanting to admit it. It's only been 2 weeks. They faced 2 solid defenses in Pittsburgh and Miami, at least on paper from last year, although we just saw Derek Carr and the Raiders, who have looked good, torch Pittsburgh and throw whatever he wanted against Pittsburgh, but it's still a solid defense by all accounts. So yes, it's too early to tell here, but I mean, Josh Allen compared to last year, nowhere near the same start. This is Josh Allen rookie year type numbers. A 56% completion percentage through the first 2 weeks. That's big concerning. Number 33 in the NFL, and there's only 32 teams, right? He ranks number 26 in PFF grading through 2 weeks. Again, it's only 2 weeks. By week 8, maybe this is just all chalked up to a bad start against some good teams. But I don't think that's baked into the line yet, the opportunity that this might be a 5, 6, 7 loss team in Buffalo in 2021, which might sound crazy to you, but I don't think that's baked into the line. I think the line is still expecting this team to win the 12 games that they were projected to win. And so far through the first 2 weeks, they're bottom 5 in EPA, expected points added per drop back, meaning that they have a bottom 5 quarterback when they drop back right now in the NFL through 2 weeks, and that's on a per play efficiency basis. It kind of factors into defenses that you're facing. Their defense, however, has ranked top 3 in stopping the opposing quarterbacks, but they face Big Ben, who, I mean, if you watch him this past week, looks terrible, and they just faced Jacoby Brissett, who came in relief duty, who's not a terrible backup, but he's by no means an elite quarterback. So I think that's a little bit skewed to start the season as well. But on the opposite side of this one, you have the Washington football team playing well. They're running the ball well. Antonio Gibson has looked good through 2 weeks. Obviously, Terry McLaurin looks fantastic. And Taylor Heineke looks fine. He looks like he has that it factor, as many people are saying. Their defense, on the defensive side of it, ranks top 10 in defensive efficiency. And oh yeah, the Buffalo Bills offensive line through 2 weeks, second worst in the NFL. Probably a reason why Josh Allen hasn't looked as comfortable and accurate passing the ball. So you get the second worst offensive line through 2 weeks in pass protection, going up against a top 5, the number 4 ranked pressure unit in the Washington football team. Look, I think the Washington football team's live to win this game, to be completely honest with you. I think this should be closer to maybe like a 5-point, a 4.5-point spread, but we're getting 10 points here. We're getting 9 points depending on when you're watching this. I'm going to take that, and you can take it on OddsJam. As we did last week, we're going to use OddsJam, which is just kind of a spread and a VIG, and basically trying to buy the best lines. You have every single sports book you can possibly imagine on here, no matter which one it is, whether it's your big ones in DraftKings and FanDuel and Fox Bet and Bovada overseas, whatever it might be. My bookie, Barstool Sports, Bailey's, which just acquired Monkey Knife Fight recently in the past year. There's a lot on here, right? So we're going to try and find the best line, and we're going to shop that. And if I scroll down to try and find that +10 number out there, you can see the lines are moving a little bit because people notice that that's a bad bet, or at least in terms of it's a really good bet, it's a bad line. The Borgata is probably your best bet, and probably Fox Bet is going to be the most widely available for most of you watching this. If you want to get a little bit better price on that, instead of paying a -125, you can probably come up here and you can start going, okay, what does Washington +9.5 look like? +9.5, you'll get a really good bet at BetMGM at -115. That's probably the best bet at +9.5. Okay, what does it look like at +9? Now you start to get these -110 numbers like at BetMGM. But yeah, if you can find the +10 out there for a -125, ideally a -120, that's where I'd be taking it. And again, these lines are courtesy of OddsJam. It's an odds comparison tool. We'll use it for each of the rest of the bets, the final 4 bets that we'll be talking about today. Shout out that pumpkin. That pumpkin looks thick right there. Thick looking pumpkin. But anyways, The second bet I'm taking right now is the Baltimore and Detroit game. I'm leaning, I haven't yet placed, so it would be my sixth bet, Baltimore at minus 7.5, but I have the under 50 in this game. Look, basically the way you're going to find this is two teams that want to run the ball. They've been in game environments where they've had to throw the ball, the Ravens against the Raiders and against Kansas City, and you've had Detroit just trailing in games. Second half, they have to throw the ball because they're a bad team trailing against San Fran. Same exact thing in the second half, and really the mid-third, fourth quarter when they ended up having to do that against the Packers on Monday Night Football in week 2. But both teams are built to run. I mean, Detroit's best part of their offense is their offensive line, right? And what you're going to be getting, I mean, the past 2 years is the highest rush offense when you have Lamar Jackson back there with the Baltimore Ravens. They're both built to run the ball. And early on through 2 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens run defense ranks bottom 10 in the NFL, and the Detroit Lions currently rank number 31st in overall defensive ranking. And oh yeah, they rank number 25 in run defense. So two teams who want to ideally run the ball against two not so great run defenses to start the season. The Ravens on offense have already ranked top 3 in run offense EPA, expected points added. They have a positive 37% run blocking advantage versus Detroit, their offensive line versus Detroit's defensive line. And on the opposite side, Detroit, a positive 35% run blocking advantage against Baltimore. So if these two teams are running the ball, the clock is going to stay turning. If they're doing it efficiently, they're going to have these 8 to 10 play drives that are going to last 7 to 8 to maybe even 9 minutes, and you're going to get less possessions in the game. Less possessions means less chances of scoring, and it means the under, especially the under 50, which is a very high number. I'm intrigued by the matchup. It doesn't really matter about the over-under, but the matchup between TJ Hockenson and Patrick Queen, two young players in this league that are both studs at their positions or becoming studs at their positions. I think Hockenson should win that matchup. Just in general, elite tight ends will have an advantage over any linebacker, but this should be a really fun matchup to watch. And some even more points to make here is that even if you think that, okay, maybe they'll have to pass the ball again, Detroit currently ranks dead last in dropback EPA per snap, dead last in the entire NFL, meaning that they are not efficient on a per-play basis trying to pass the ball. And can you blame them? Can you blame them when their number one wide receiver is Quintus Cephas, right? Can you blame them when they have to target their tight end and running back the most, basically, to move the ball? These are two teams that look very similar. They both want to run the ball. They both can't stop the run, and they both have wide receivers that are banged up right now, with Rashad Bateman out for Baltimore, with Tyrell Williams out for the Detroit Lions. Basically, maybe their wide receiver one's already banged up and out. They're going to focus on running the ball. We take the under 50. And as of this recording on OddsJam, the under 50 is basically out there as the bet to get right now. You can find it at 888. The under 50, you can get the best line right now on BetMGM. The under 50, it's basically everywhere you want right now. The Borgata, anywhere you want to get this, whether it's OddsJam, whether it's on DraftKings or FanDuel, they have the minus 112 and minus 120 out there. The best bet right now is the under 50. If you really wanted to maybe try and get some plus money, you can take it like under 49 at this point. But I think the best bet is probably going to be some of these bets right here, where you can get it the under 50 at the Borgata. BetMGM will be more widely available, especially in America. That's going to be the minus 110 number you see right here, and that's just going to be for the under 50. The under 50 is my favorite bet, and you still get the best price. So my favorite bet in this game is the under 50. The other part of this game I do like is Baltimore minus 7.5. My only concern there is if it is a slow-paced game, you could see an easy backdoor cover, whether it is a field goal or a touchdown late by Detroit to ruin that, because I don't think either team is going to be able to score at will, or at least score quickly at some slower-paced teams. I know we saw them score quickly last week, Baltimore. This will be a totally different game environment, in my opinion. I think you're going to see both teams. I mean, both teams probably in this game are going to skew run heavy. And now my third bet is going to be a Monday Night Football bet. And this might be my favorite bet, but it's not enough points for me to feel like very confident in it, like the Washington football team getting plus 10. But it's going to be Philadelphia versus Dallas. And I can make the case for either side of this one, but when it really breaks down to it, these teams are very similar. And if anything, Philadelphia has an edge on defense. So Philadelphia, you're getting plus 4 depending on where you look. I took it at plus 4.5. I got that on DraftKings, but you're getting plus 4.5 from Philadelphia. And when I start to break down these teams through the first 2 weeks, you're going to see that these teams are very similar. Obviously, Dallas has a bigger media outlet. They have just the star on their logo, right? They're America's team. A lot more people know about them. So you might be in their home. So you might be eager to say, they're the much better team. No, I mean, through 2 weeks, these teams are very similar. Philadelphia ranks 6th in defensive EPA, expected points added, and 11th on offense. Dallas ranks 9th on offense and 17th on defense. So basically a spitting image team right now. Actually, Philadelphia has a decent sized gap advantage on defense. And as a quarterback right now, I mean, week 1 was great for Jalen Hurts. Week 2 was not as good, but it wasn't awful on a per play basis, but it just wasn't as good. He ranks number 9 in EPA, where Dak ranks number 11 in EPA right now. Philadelphia's offensive line ranks 7th and has a positive 49% run blocking advantage in this one. Dallas's offensive line ranks in terms of pass protection 15th and has a positive 54. So these run blocking advantage. So these things are just basically spitting images. The one advantage that Philadelphia will have is their ability to garner pressure. Now they just lost Graham for probably the season, so that's a concern, but they have been number 8 in pressure rate compared to Dallas, who is struggling to get pressure, but in week 2 we saw Micah Parsons go to defensive end and lead all players in the NFL in pressure rate. So they rank number 21 right now, but maybe that's going to tick up. You look at both of these secondaries, and yeah, the second-year player for the Cowboys in Diggs looks fantastic. I mean, he was shutting down Keenan Allen last week. Allen had over 100 yards. Those were not all on him, but he shut down his efficiency. Allen normally does that on 10 catches, 8 catches. He did it on 4 catches. And again, some of that was during a zone defense, not in a one-on-one man coverage. So that's good, but the secondaries for the most part look pretty similar here. So what you're getting is, in summary, two teams that have looked pretty similar on a per-play basis. They do it in different ways, of course, with Jalen Hurts being more mobile and using tight ends more in that Philadelphia offense. But two teams that look pretty similar on an expected points added and efficiency basis on offense and defense, maybe even a slight edge to Philadelphia, yet the spread is plus 4.5. So when you do it on the road, on a neutral field, this would basically be a coin flip. I'll just take that extra point to 4.5 points when you factor in that it is going to be a road team here. I'll take that 4.5 points with Philadelphia for a game that, to me, looks like two teams that are a complete coin flip. Maybe it looks differently once the game is played, but as of the information we have right now, I'm taking Philadelphia in the points. If it was Dallas in the points, I would take Dallas. I just want the points at this point. I think that's where the value lies. And a lot of books have already moved this number to plus 4, but I'll take the plus 4. It's not like it's a magic number of plus 3 and you're trying to get the 3.5 point hook. So I got it at 4.5. You can still get it at 4.5 for decent odds, like minus right here, minus 115 at BetMGM. You can still get it at minus 115. You would just basically get like a $5. You'd have to pay an extra $5 in juice per $100 that you bet. But right here, you can just get the Eagles at plus 4 if you wanted to. You can see the highlighted bet. Everywhere you see they're minus 110. Minus 110 is the best number. There's the average number that you will find in sports betting. You'll rarely ever find even odds. So you can actually, wow, this is pretty close. So Betfred, if you have access to that, not many people do, minus 105. But everywhere is basically minus 110. You can get minus 105 as well on OddsJam and Pinnacle. So Pinnacle is minus 105 depending on where you're located. But that's where I would go with. I would take the 4.5 if it's out there at good odds, like a minus 115 juice. Otherwise, if the price is just basically plus 4 minus 110, I think that's completely fine. That is the third bet that we can chat about. You can get that on OddsJam. And also on OddsJam, you get 30% off your first month for all the other tools that they have. They have arbitrage on there. They have a nice newsletter as well that lets you know basically exactly when the best bet is, where you can middle some numbers. You can actually have both sides of the numbers, guaranteeing yourself at the very worst you split, but you can actually double your profit if it lands in the middle. So at the worst part, you actually split when you middle a number. You don't lose money. And at the best part, you're winning money. So you're kind of hedging yourself if you can middle numbers. They let you know on those notifications. You could use the code SAL if you want to sign up over there and check out some of their jams if you're somebody who's actually interested in sports betting a good amount. I know my channel has a lot of DFS and fantasy, but we do have some maybe diehards out there from a sports betting standpoint. The final two games, this fourth one is going to be an over for me, the first over that we're talking about. It's going to be Jacksonville versus Arizona, the over 51. This is up to 52 in some spots, 51.5 in a lot of spots. You can still find it at 51. So in week 1, Arizona against Tennessee, they look like a solid defense, but we know, I mean, Chandler Jones got 5 sacks. He forced some pressure. He made it kind of difficult for Ryan Tannehill to stay into the pocket. We know, though, that their secondary doesn't really have much playmakers. Maybe some younger players like Byron Murphy can take a step forward, but not many playmakers. They probably look like a bottom 10, and they did last week, EPA against Minnesota. They're ranked number 31 versus the run, number 28 in tackling here, so it'll be a couple ways where Jacksonville can get it done. And the big thing here is we know that Arizona is going to put up points, right? They're 30-plus implied team total in this one. It is, can Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, who has not looked good, he's had 5 picks and is averaging 5.4 yards per attempt, can they get it done? They have Shark, they have Marvin Jones. It looks like Shenault avoided a serious injury. We'll see if he's playing in week 3. Obviously, we want to see that. But we know Arizona will put up points, and Jacksonville is a bottom 5 secondary, a bottom 5 run defense, a bottom 5 in pass rush. They're going to put up points at will. It just comes down to, will they continue to push the needle like they did last week against the Minnesota Vikings? Will they have to put the pressure on? Will they have to score 35 to 40 points? Or will they kind of coast and start to run the ball in the second half with James Conner and maybe some Chase Edmonds? If you can get 2 to 3 scores, if you can get a 20-point game here, which seems pretty high, but they're implied for close to that, around 20 points for this team, you're going to be in a really good spot because it's going to keep Arizona's foot on the gas. And when Jacksonville is playing from behind, like, you want Jacksonville playing from behind in this. Now, if they get up 14 to 7 early, that's fantastic. Let them do that. It's going to force more points in general. But if Jacksonville is playing from behind, they're not going to run the ball as much. If they're playing from ahead, they're going to, Urban Meyer's going to say, let's give the ball to fucking Carlos Hyde, some James Robinson, but Carlos Hyde to run the ball. If they're playing from behind, obviously they won't run the ball. They've shown an ability to actually pass the ball a ton. Urban Meyer, although he's been somewhat of a donkey so far in the NFL from all accounts, it does look like he's actually not running the ball when behind and not running the ball in first and second down when behind, as you shouldn't. But some teams, they do. Just look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Awful, Zach Taylor. Awful. So what you get there is, instead of more rush attempts for Carlos Hyde that's inefficient and killing the clock, you get a lot more pass routes for James Robinson, who is just running a ton of routes, over 60. It's toward the NFL lead right now because his team continues to play from behind. You have Jacksonville playing in neutral situations, number 2 in pace, meaning that even when they're not down by a lot, just neutral situations, they're playing pretty fast in pace. So if anything, you can just credit Urban Meyer and his coordinators for that. So they're ready to put up a lot of points. They just have to be efficient. Does Trevor Lawrence get it done this week against a team that will bring some pressure but has no ability in terms of tackling and not much of ability in the secondary? It'll be interesting to see if that offensive line can hold up against Chandler Jones. If it does, by any accounts. If it doesn't, it gives him the ability to put up 2 to 3 scores. I like the over 51 here. And now my final bet of the day is going to be, I just like the hook. I like the value here. It's going to be the Sunday Night Football game, which should be a good game in this one. Jimmy G just looked terrible last time out. Brandon Ayuk's not involved all that much. They have more bodies down in their running back core. They lost another guy in defense. It's just high ankle sprains left and right for this team. So what I like is the plus 3.5 for the Green Bay Packers against San Francisco. Green Bay at this point is a healthier team. Obviously, Bakhtiari's on IR, but they are a healthier team at this point than San Francisco. And you're getting 3.5 points because they're on the road here. Green Bay this past week, they did exactly what they couldn't do week 1. Week 1 was weird because they had the Saints run the ball against them, kill the clock, which San Fran can do the way that they end up playing, right, with their offensive line and really their run scheme. So that's a concern here. But assuming the Packers don't just run like 15 plays in the first half like they had to do in that first week game, and they get a little bit more time to actually control the ball like they did in week 2 against the Lions, it's going to look good. So in week 1, the Saints played 2 high safeties and the Packers weren't patient and they just didn't have enough plays. So when they went 3 and out one time, it sucked. They only had like 3 drives in the first half. In week 2, the Packers were much more patient, meaning that they were able to run the ball. And Detroit is not a good run defense. When you're playing 2 high safeties, if you watch the Peyton Manning stream, but just in general before that, knowing this knowledge, when you play 2 high safeties, you have 1 less guy in the box. And if those safeties are playing deep like they normally do in 2 high, that's why it's called 2 high, you can run the ball easier because you have soft boxes. And that's what the Packers did with Aaron Jones. That's what the Packers did with A.J. Dillon early on. They stayed patient, they ran the ball, and they picked up yardage. And then when the safeties came down, that's when they hit Devontae Adams for a 50-yard catch over the middle. That's when they hit Robert Tonyan for a touchdown in the middle of the field, when one safety is back and one's coming down to stop the run because you're getting 6 and 7 and 9-yard runs. And the Detroit Lions ranked number 25 in run defense, and now you have the number 26 run defense. Yes, the 49ers are struggling to stop the run right now coming in. So if they want to play too high, the Packers will be able to run the ball. If they don't want to play too high, then it's Aaron Rodgers doing what he wants to do with a lot of one-on-one matchups in the secondary for Devontae Adams, Lazard, MVS, Robert Tonyan one-on-one against linebackers. The Packers, according to PFF, have a positive 16% pass blocking advantage. They're number 2 offensive line so far through 2 weeks versus number 14 pass rate and pressure rate. Some injuries on the defensive line yet again for San Francisco. And when it comes to that run blocking, their offensive line against the defensive line that I said ranks 26, they have a positive 80% run blocking advantage. Number 1 in the entire week according to Pro Football Focus. Now, Green Bay's defense has looked bad at times. Their secondary is not good on an expected points at a basis on a per play basis. I'm not too worried about Jimmy G being able to pick that apart though, as they don't have a lot of weapons on offense since Brandon Ayuk for some reason is not playing still all that much. But their concerns in their secondary drop a ton when Kevin King's not out there. Like, Kevin King is the main reason why they have a lot of concerns in their secondary, giving up a big touchdown week 1, giving up a big 40, 50-yard pass to start out week 2 against Quentin Cephas and the Detroit Lions. They're struggling to generate pressure, number 24 in pressure rate because there's no Zadarius Smith out there. That hurts. But in general, this defense, when there's no Kevin King out there, has looked solid. So I'm going to be taking the points here. And look, we're taking the points. We're not thinking that the Packers win. I'm not taking their money line. If the Packers lose by 2, we win. If they lose by 3, we win. We like the plus 3.5 points on that hook. And as of this recording, that number is still at plus 3.5, and you can get it for some really nice bets. Whether you're taking it at Bailey's, you can get it at minus 105, but basically you get the number anywhere you want on OddsJam right now, minus 110. You can just shop your book. I would make sure to find a minus 110 out there because there's a ton of them, whether it's BetUS. Let's see what the main sports books are offering. Fox Bet is minus 110. You end up seeing FanDuel at minus 115. DraftKings matches them at minus 115. Wherever you can end up getting it, just make sure you're not overpaying for it. I'll take the plus 3.5 points. This is probably going to move to plus 3 by Thursday or Friday, so be sure to jump on this as soon as you can. So there you go. Those are 5 bets that I like right now. We're coming off of a 2-2-1 week, so let's get some Dollarooskies this week. I appreciate you tuning in. Use OddsJam. It's a comparison tool. You can check it out. I'll link it down below. Just oddsjam.com. And that just helps you show exactly where you should be shopping for lines. Even if you only have like one sportsbook available, it's good to look at to at least get in that rhythm when more sportsbooks open in your state. But especially if you have at least 2 sportsbooks, use that to shop your lines. Get the best lines. Get the best number. Why would you go to the grocery store and pay for the exact 2 items? The exact 2 items. It's not like you're paying for a superior or different ingredients. The exact 2 same bottles of ketchup, just with a different label. The exact 2. Everything in them is the exact same, but you're going to pay more for one right next to it, $5 more when you can get it for $5 cheaper. That's basically what you're doing when you're not shopping your lines when you have the ability to. So OddsJam will be really good for that. Before you go, hit the like and subscribe button. We have more content dropping throughout the week. We're going to be talking about player props all week long. DFS final thoughts tomorrow on Friday. That one do it on Saturday, and we'll be live later today for Thursday if you're watching this for the Thursday Night Football game, and live on Sunday before the game starts. You all rock. I'll see you in the next one. Best of luck with your bets this week. Peace out, gang.